Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Reg Talks with Raj, an insider view of regulatory. Apologies for delay in posting next video. I always wanted someone from human resources and hiring team to be a part of my next episode. Luckily, fortunately, I met Twinia Bruton at DIA 2024, and when I proposed this idea, she readily accepted my proposal and she accepted to be a part of the next episode. Twinia Bruton, she is currently working as Executive Director, Global Head of Human Resources at Astellas Pharma. She previously worked as Director of Human Resources and Business Partner, and she has guided many students in achieving their dream jobs. On behalf of student community, I would like to thank Tinia for her time. In this video, she has given an ample amount of information about tailoring your resume, skills needed to tackle an interview, salary negotiation, and what are the skill set needed for getting into your dream jobs. We have discussed everything in this episode. So try to watch this episode to the end and hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Reg Talks with Raj, an insider view of regulatory. Today I'm having Twinia Brownie, whom I met at DIA conference, Drug Information Association Global Annual Meeting 2024. So when I initially met her, I thought like she would not be accepting my proposal for coming into my YouTube channel, but fortunate I'm having her here. This is the most awaited episode since 1.5 months. I thought someone from the recruiting industry will join me and share what are the insights of this recruiting industry and how it functions. So I'm lucky to have Twinia Bruton over here. So I'm glad. Thank you, Twinia, for accepting my proposal and joining me today. So uh, let's navigate this episode by knowing the insights of the recruiting industry. So I see you started your first job in 1989. So how do you feel this whole journey, like around 30 years, and which where I was not even born during 89? So how do you feel about this journey? Can you brief about your journey?
So certainly, thank you for having me on the your channel here. I'm very excited, and so anytime you need anything, just let me know. But my journey, interestingly enough, my journey started again at Baxter. Actually, a couple of jobs before that, but for the most part at Baxter. And I actually started in finance, and then now I'm over in HR. But
Mhm.
what I find interesting in my journey is just the ability to grow, and I think it's just very important to ensure that you're keeping up with the changing times because there has been an evolution since obviously 30 years ago to now that I've been in the workforce, but just keeping up on what's more relevant at the moment. But anyway, the journey has been interesting, and I I believe that I own my career, so I've just done all the things to ensure that I'm able to progress in my career. Yeah.
That's great. So, as it's going to be something insights from the recruiting industry, so we start from the resume part itself. So, generally, when you go through a resume, what are the common mistakes do you find in a resume? As we see, some universities suggest there is a particular format for the resume. That is there any particular format for a resume that your resume should be in this format? With that only AT is gonna screen your resume or someone recruiter gonna pick that? Is there anything like that? Or what are the common mistakes do you find in a resume?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So I think the first common mistake is not checking spelling,
Mm-hmm.
grammar, and punctuation. It's important because people will feel that if you don't even take the time to proofread your resume, then you probably won't. You'll carry that over into the workforce, not being, checking your work and not being detail oriented. So that's one. Two, and updating it. One resume should not suffice for every position that you apply for. You must take the time to read the job description and update your resume accordingly, putting the most relevant things to the top and leaving the other things, that are not as relevant further down. The other mistake is having it too long. If you've just started your career, your resume shouldn't be 5 pages long. Now, if you are in the science field or anywhere where there's publications and you have a CV, that's different. But just in a standard resume, don't have it too long, and look at the format. Don't have the font so little that no one can read it. Make sure
Okay.
you appropriately put spaces because people want to be able to glance down, and that's how they read, glancing down. And what's going to help them stop and truly read the resume, it has to be aesthetically pleasing to the eye and not jumbled. And then also those first few five bullets should have something to do with the position that you're applying for there.
Oh, thanks for that.
Mhm.
When it comes to job interview process, when I was attending my first co-op or internship interview, I was like a bit overconfident that I thought like I'm gonna do this anyways. I'm gonna get this job. That way I was there. But later on, as things changes, one-on-one get rejected. Then I realized that there is something I need to work on my skill set. So, or preparation for a job interview. What suggestions would you like to give for preparing for a first job interview when you're facing an interviewer, whether it may be a HR or manager or else someone from director level?
Yes. You said it. Be prepared. You have to prepare. That is the first thing. People come in and think they can just wing it and ask some questions, but the hiring manager, the HR person that's doing the screening, they want to know that there should be a reason to move you forward in the process, right? No matter if you're at the initial stage or further down. And then you
Mhm.
have to think about what sets you apart from all the other applicants, right? So, one, you should know something about the company. Two, you should have done some, now that things are really electronic, look up the
Mhm.
people on LinkedIn, see where their backgrounds are, see what, especially the people that you are going to interview with, look at them on LinkedIn. Show some initiative about, I'm really trying to learn about the company. You don't have to memorize their annual report, but at
Okay.
least be able to pick out some nuggets that are relevant, right? And then
Yes.
also, too, be on time, and that means 15 minutes early.
Mhm.
Be prepared with a couple additional copies of your resume, although they probably have it, but just have it just in case. And then
Mhm.
have your something to write with, and then have some prepared questions for them.
Mhm. Perfect, perfect. And you see, like when you go for an entry level candidate, when you screen their resumes, what you will actually look into that. So relevant something somewhere like internship or else like some projects that we are going through or else skill set that we are entering. So what you gonna look into a fresher resume when you screen an entry level candidate?
Yes, the first thing that we look for, do you meet the qualifications of the position?
Hmm.
And so if it says that you need to have your bachelor's degree and
Hmm.
you only have an associate's, then that'll disqualify you, because we, in a regulated environment, you must match the position. Now, if it says you need 5 years of experience and you have four and a half, well, that's not as big of a deal. But it's the actual requirements. You need to, have a degree, or you need to be certified at something, or whatever those things are. We look first, right?
Hmm.
Make sure you meet the minimum requirements. Then as soon as we check that at the bottom, then we go back to the top. And if you've just graduated, GPA is important. It's not a mitigating factor, but it's important. We look at your GPA.
Hmm.
If your GPA is like below a 3.0, then a real person, if you meet other qualifications, a good recruiter will ask, what's the story behind this? And it could be a lot of things that are legitimate, right? It's not just to rule out. And then, of course, is your resume, is it readable? Do I is a lot of grammatical errors? And then up in the top, when people put their objective, do you understand what that means? Because they get people to write it for them, which I don't have a problem with that, but be able to explain it.
Hmm.
And I've had many times that I've asked people about, well, explain this to me, what does this mean? And they don't know because somebody wrote it for them, right? So even if
Okay.
somebody does write it because they write better,
Hmm.
should know what's on your resume. You should be able to speak to anything that I call out.
Exactly. And when you see an entry level position nowadays in LinkedIn or Indeed, they mention like it's an entry level position, and in the requirements they do mention like we need someone with experience like 0 to 2 years, 0 to 3 years. What does this actually mean? Like from a recruiter point, I would like to know how does these functions actually?
Yes. So they look at your overall resume and experiences, whether or not you've done some internships or you've done some fellowships or whatever that background is. And when they
Mhm.
say 0 to 3 years of experience, you can come in with no experience or up to 3 years of experience, because after that they think that you might be ready for the next level. So that's what it means. Exactly what it says. That many years of experience, anywhere between 0 and 3, or 5 to 10, or 8 to 10, whatever that might be. And they mean job experience, but we do take into consideration any, like I said, internships that you may have had, any fellowships that you may have had. We take that as experience because it is.
Okay. Perfect. As you
Yeah.
mentioned about internships, like nowadays, when you screen a candidate, like how important the internships are, like co-op or internship, working with some company, whether it may be a paid or unpaid role. So how important it and how you consider them.
Well, I think there is a level of importance because it shows that you were able to juggle your personal life with school, with work. Yeah, and so and it doesn't mean that you get ruled out because you haven't had any, but then we're able to assess your work experience because you've had some work experience, right? So that's the
Mhm.
part it plays. It just helps to further evaluate your readiness for this role.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's great. And how do you see this networking thing in the current job market? Like when you go to a conference or meet someone randomly and talk about your profile, like is that something gonna create a big thing in your life? Like does it changes something? Does that
Networking.
make some changes? Yep, networking.
Networking is key. If you don't network, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. And I what I hear from people is like, well, I'm introverted, I'm shy, I don't know what to say. Well, typically, if you're networking, you start off about you, and who else to better speak about you than yourself?
Exactly.
So you just think about a couple of bullet points and why you're introducing yourself. Just introduce yourself and say, this is what I'm doing, and I'm interested in this, that sort of thing. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out conversation, and you'll know
Mhm.
when to pause and move on. Hey, it's great meeting you. But I always say have a firm handshake. Don't approach the person very timidly because they're gonna come across that way, right?
Okay.
So when
Mhm.
you approach the person, come with some level of confidence. And again,
Mhm.
it's not a job interview at that moment, but it's a discussion, right? It's networking. And you never know if you make a good impression, even if that person doesn't have something, they may know somebody that does, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
always be prepared to leave your contact information. Back in the day it was business cards. Now you can do it with the phones. It's very or a QR code. It's much easier now to trade information and keep up with it than just the business cards, right? But
Yes, exactly.
networking is key. It's key. You got to get comfortable with it, right?
Yeah, that's what we did in DIA Leaders of Tomorrow networking session. Like,
It's key.
you have given a lot of insights to us, like on the day where we met, and I was inspired from you, like to bring up some new leadership into the industry. That's what your motto on the day. I was very
Yeah.
much inspired by that. Thanks for that day. And what kind of soft skills do you look into a resume when you see a fresh graduate resume, and how do you differentiate from an experienced person in terms of that?
Yeah, well, we look for leadership skills. I mean, have you demonstrated? It could be just the fact that I don't know, were head of the cookie selling club. I'm just making that up. But that you have some leadership capabilities. Are you able to follow through, right? We look for your ability to follow through on some things. We look for your leadership. We look for your ability to communicate, right?
Yeah.
And so all of those soft skills are very important. Are you timely, right?
Yes.
Can you be on time? Can you deliver on some things? Tell me a time that you had to meet a deadline, right? You hear that question, and
Yeah.
then you tell me a time that even if there was conflicting priorities, tell me a time that you had to meet a deadline, and
Mhm.
then we want to understand too your ability to deal with conflict because it's not a perfect world. Nothing goes as planned half the time. So how do you handle that? I mean, things do happen, things go wrong, but I want to hear about what you've done and give me an example of that, right? So I think that's going to be another thing too, even though we're not on the interview questions, but be prepared to talk about what you've done, not what you hypothetically would do,
Okay.
right?
Like a real-time example that we have already faced, whether it may be working with your team in terms of assignments, projects, though you
Yes.
don't have any real-time experience with the industry or else in a hospital setting. Yep.
Well, that's right, because leadership is leadership. It doesn't matter where you are, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Dealing with conflict is dealing with conflict. It doesn't matter where you are and what you're doing.
Exactly.
I want to hear about that. And you could say maybe there was a conflict when you're working on a project in school and two people were not delivering their pieces all at the same time. Well, that's going to cause conflict, or delivering their pieces on time, and that will cause a conflict. So, as the leader of the team or just a peer, what did you do? Right?
Yes.
Like that.
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be in a work setting because how you operate is how you operate, right?
Yeah. Whatever it may be. Yeah. And what kind of advice would you like to give for us, like for a graduate who is going to enter into the market at current scenarios due to inflation and crisis in the job market? What kind of suggestions would you like to give to us?
As it relates to the complexity of getting into the market?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, yes, great question. I would say be persistent and don't get discouraged. First things first. You're going to hear a no here or there. You might hear a yes right away, you might not. It's okay. Maybe that's just not the right role for you, but there is a right role for you, right? So always got to keep confident. If you walk into a job interview defeated, that's what you're going to give off, and people are going to sense that. So no matter what you're going through that day, walk in with confidence. But well,
Mhm.
like I said, if you get there a few minutes early, you can get yourself mentally prepared. You
Yes.
can make sure that what you're wearing is appropriate. Go in the bathroom. Did I mess up anything? Did I get lint on it? Did I accidentally brush up against something? So always make sure that you're at least looking the part, dressed the part. And then I always call it leaning in. When you're in an interview, kind of lean in. Don't just sit back casual. Lean into the conversation and let the person know that you are truly interested. But I would say plan out your job search. Know where you want to go. And people say, "Well, I don't know what I want to do." Well, that's a problem. You need to at least have an idea what you might like to do or what you're good at, right? And then my advice is what I tell everybody. Once you determine what it is that you'd like to do, right? Let's say it's engineering, I know,
Mhm.
and you find a company that has engineering positions, and then you make sure that company is aligned to your values and your
Mhm.
goals, right? The money will come. You just need to make sure that you feel good about the organization. I'll give an example. I love being in HR. I love
Mhm.
pharma, but I don't know if I want to work for a defense industry where they make, weapons of mass destruction. It's not my thing. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean people don't need to work there, but for me, I like pharma. I like helping people. I like things that will, improve somebody's quality of life or even save their life. That's my value proposition. So you have to
Mhm.
understand what yours is. It's going to be different for everybody, and find
Exactly.
companies that are aligned to that. Because
Mhm.
even when times get tough or things get tough, that will still motivate you to go in. If you don't really like the company, you're going to be less motivated.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that suggestion. And I would like to ask from my personal point of view, ours is a generation right now. I'm at the age of 26. We are a generation that we are not able to handle pressure kind of situations. Like we were not able to handle rejections. We get excited for even for the smaller things, and we even get depressed for the smaller things. In month of November 2023, I was in a condition that. Uh, I was more deep in I was more into the public. So people think that this guy gonna get co-op or internship, whatever it may be. He thinks that he gonna get that at any time. So I was in a situation. I have given 13 interviews. I was not able to tackle that, but I'm not sure what's wrong with me. I was keep on continuously changing, and at a point of time, I was not able to come into the I was not able to attend the classes due to an insecure feeling that I was not getting a co-op or not able to handle this kind of pressure. So I was not, like, I was depressed. So what kind of suggestion would you like to give? How you balance your work life with all these 30 years of experience? So what kind of suggestions would you like to give for our generation that we were not able to have balance our work life, rejections, luck, happiness, whatever?
Yeah, so thank you. Well, first, as I said earlier, you're going to have the rejection. So just know that going in, it's going to happen at some point. You might have a really good run, and then something might happen. You can't
Mhm.
be so defined by those things. You have to know who you are and be confident in that. And no matter what happens, it doesn't change you as a person, right? Let's say if I got laid off tomorrow, I'm still me. I'm not defined by my job. I love my job, but I'm not defined by it. So I would say be just you have to work on that to be able to compartmentalize, what's really important. You and your personal life and your health and family, those are important. Jobs will come and go, but your
Yeah,
health is what you need, right? So I
exactly.
would say, and sometimes it's time to make a move. Don't be so married to a job that you don't even try to move up. And I know it's less prevalent now, but back in the day, people stayed at jobs 30 years, and that you shouldn't anymore. Not
Mhm.
unless it's just something that you like. I'm good, and that's just what I want to do. Then, but that's you, right? But I think other people who aspire to do more, It doesn't hurt to look. It doesn't hurt to see how you still comparing to the marketplace. Keep up on the latest trends. What's going on? What are people looking for? What's changing? And so you don't get left behind. But I just say change is going to happen. Tough times are going to happen. Rejection is going to happen, but it shouldn't define you. So each day, get up and say, "Listen, yep, I stumbled. I'll use this. Okay, if you went outside and it was winter and it was
Mhm.
icy and snowy outside and you slipped, what would you do after you fell?
Get back and walk. That's it.
That's right, get back up. And so life is like that. Life's going to be slippery sometimes. You're going to trip sometimes, but you don't
Yep.
just lay there. You get back up, and that's what I recommend you do every day. Just get back up.
Yeah, the setting back is the hardest thing,
It is.
that's where we are lacking actually. And later on, like I was putting up so much of weight, and I don't know what to do. Like I was fed up with the thing, so I realized that 9 to 5 is something you need to work for money, or that's where your profession sits. Then after 5, what you're doing matters a lot. Whether it may be walking for a while, or
Yeah,
doing workout, eating good food, talking
that's
to your
right.
friends, that's what matters a lot. So I
Yeah.
realized that that's where this YouTube channel has also come up from that.
Yeah, you have to get up and you have to, like I said, I'm not going to say it's just easy just because you get up. I mean, you might stumble again, but you get right back up, right? Don't just lay there and give up. Just keep
Mhm.
going because again, that right opportunity, that right position, the right company, all of that will come. It will
Yeah,
come. And then I
just
would
wait
say
for the right time.
correct. And then I would say get a mentor too to kind of help you through and you asked me something earlier about leaving the interviews. I say, if you get a lot of rejections, ask for feedback. What is it
Oh,
that you could be doing differently? That's a great question to ask. If they say, hey, we went with a more qualified candidate, and then you can say, hey, is it okay if I reach out to any of the interviewers to get
mhm.
feedback? And typically, the recruiter will put all the feedback together, but ask for it. Maybe it's you're not dressed appropriate. I'm making that up, but if that's the thing, then dress more appropriately, right? But sometimes you don't know what you don't know. It's
Mhm.
always okay to ask for feedback. Always,
Mhm.
it's always okay to do that.
Perfect. That sounds great. And one more question, like when you set up an interview for 30 minutes of time or 1 hour, if you're not able to manage, like whether it may be asking questions from an interviewer end or else candidate end, it finish off like in 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So it really matters. Like time does really matters in terms like. Or do we need to kill the time till 30 minutes which you have set up, or else we can finish up earlier? That doesn't going to impact, or will it impact?
No, so if I'm interviewing someone and it's scheduled for 30 minutes and I have a hard stop, I'll try to be
Mhm.
mindful of that. I do want to hear what people say, but what I'll do is just maybe not ask all the questions I had because
Okay.
I don't want to rush through the questions and get these answers that are rushed through. So
Mhm.
I'll very much pick and choose if I feel like we're running out of time. Now, if I'm the interviewee and I'm somebody's interviewing me for a position, I
Mhm.
already know how much time we have allotted, and you want to be respectful. So I'll make sure that I'm very succinct with my answers, so we
Okay.
don't have to spend a lot of time. I don't
Mhm.
want to be so wordy that we get through one question, right? Because you want them to know about you and what you bring. And the only
Mhm.
way they will do that is that you are um, answering more questions. You don't have to answer all of them. It's okay. Sometimes we cut an interview short if we're done. And if we're
Mhm.
not and it runs over, I respectfully ask, hey, we're already at time. Do you have a hard stop? And the person will say, no, I have a few more minutes. So I might get one more question, or maybe I'm just following up on something they said earlier. So
Okay.
people will flex a little bit unless, of course, they have a very hard stop.
Mhm. That's great. And in terms of negotiations and salary negotiations, what kind of tricks and tips we need to use, like for an entry level candidate? When you consider myself, I will be looking for something, some X amount per an hour. So, and I will tell at the end of that question answer, like I will tell them, like I'm open for negotiation. I'm not keen about the pay. So I'm good to discuss with you. So, is it a good answer, or else we need to be specific about the payroll or something?
You don't have to be specific, but you should have a number in mind that you don't really want to go under because remember, no matter what, you still have to live. You still have bills. You still have a car or whatever you have, right? So
Yeah.
you can't just take anything and then you suffer in your personal life. So I would
Mhm.
always say already know where your bottom number is, right? I wouldn't
Yeah.
tell them that though. I would just know what that is, and
Okay.
then say, and in my salary, I would say I use this. My salary expectations are aligned to what the market bears for this role.
Okay.
That's what I say.
Perfect. That
Yeah.
sounds great.
And then the other thing is to do your homework before you go. Know what the market is. Now you can't compare all jobs. So a job at Estella's will probably pay more than a job at Walmart, right? So you got to determine size of company and what the size of the company and how many employees they are, how big are they, global or are they regional, that sort of
Mhm.
thing, like a mom and pop shop versus a corporation. That will fluctuate even on titles and pay. So compare apples to apples, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So again, if you're looking at a job with Johnson and Johnson and then a job with Pfizer, they're like-sized companies. They should
Hmm.
probably pay somewhere around the same thing for like roles. But if you look
Okay.
at a Johnson and Johnson and you look at a local hospital, I mean, they're not going to pay the same.
Yeah.
So it just
Exactly.
depends. Yes. So do your homework about what the and you can find it. Everything's online for the most part, or at least you can
Mhm.
find a ballpark, right? And
Yeah.
then know your worth, right? You have to know what you're worth, and it's
Exactly.
okay to ask. And everything's negotiable. Everything. The only thing they can do is tell you no, right?
Hmm.
But that's where you're already at no because you haven't gotten the offer yet. So when they give you the offer, everything's negotiable. And
Yep.
all they can tell you is just no, right? If they can't do it. But typically on base, they have some room and they'll go and check.
Hmm.
Or if it's on, vacation, some companies are very strict on the vacation because they give something else,
Hmm.
other time off that's so much that you'd get, even though you may have 15 vacation days, but might get another extra 2 weeks off because of the holidays. So they might be a little strict on that. Hold on. But remember, everything is negotiable.
Okay.
Everything.
Perfect. That sounds great. And thank you, Trinia. Thank you for your time. And I got a lot of insights from your end of how recruiting industry works. And this is going to be a useful session for aspiring students who are going to enter into the market or pharma or into IT sector, whatever. It's going to be a useful session to them. Thanks for your valuable time. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All
See you.
right.